Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today it is finally time. It is the upcoming Premier League season 2026-2027. It's going to be such an exciting season. So much content coming from myself as well. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe. If you are new to the channel, I'd love to hear some feedback, so please drop it in the comments. But aye, there's so much to talk about. Can Arsenal go back to back? Can Man City be dominant again under Enzo Maresca? How will Liverpool adapt under Areola? How will Man United do with Michael Carrick? And can even Coventry, Hull or Ipswich stay in the Premier League? I'm here to discuss that and so much more. Without further ado, let's get right into it because we have quite a lot to talk about. Right then, without further ado, let's get into my Premier League predictions. Of course, we are going to go from bottom to top. So my bottom three teams are going to be Hull in 20th. I'm going to go Ipswich in 19th and in 18th. I'm going to go for a shocker. I'm going to go Nottingham Forest to get relegated now. The bottom two speak for themselves. Hull and Ipswich, I think they are going to get a good try. I think they have built decent squads. They have good managers. Respectfully, obviously, I know Diza Maeda, who's came up from Scotland, from Scotland, from Celtic. Please ignore that playing noise behind me if you can hear that. But I just think these two, they're just not going to be able to cope in the Premier League, and I can see these two getting relegated. Nottingham Forest is a bit of a weird one, to be honest with you. I think they look alright. I don't think Nottingham Forest look anything too special, but I do think they will get a good goal. Look, I don't think it's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think it's going to be too much a distance between who gets relegated and who stays up. I think it's going to be pretty tight. Obviously, Glasner's took over the role. They have signed Usman Diomande, sorry. I think he is a good signing. They've obviously signed Xavier Slager as well, which I suppose he could be a good signing. Gustav Al's joined the club for €20 million. I think they have made some decent signings, but I don't know. I just have a funny feeling this is going to be Nottingham Forest here. So, aye, that's my bottom three. I don't think there's too many arguments about that. I think the only one I would say is maybe Nottingham Forest, but again, you can let me know down below whether you agree with me or not. Right, moving on to mid-table, and instead of putting these in one by one, I have just put these in. I will discuss these. So in 17th, I have gone just staying up Coventry City under Frank Lampard, of course. I think Frank Lampard's done a terrific job so far at Coventry, and if there's any team that I think is going to get promoted and manage to stay up, I think it is going to be the Blues. I don't know, I feel they have a good chance. You know that way, you've just got a wee feeling, and it could come back and absolutely bite me, and they could end up getting relegated come the end of the season, but I don't know. I think Coventry have built a decent squad under Frank Lampard. I think they've made a couple of decent signings, to be honest, and I think you already factor in, you've got that passion with Frank, you've got that knowledge, he's been up in the Premier League before, it's maybe no worked, has to go and revitalise himself, rebuild himself, try it again. I think they could work. Then you've got Leeds in 16th, which I just think it's a general season for Leeds. I never think they're going to be in trouble, to be honest with you. I think they might be teetering around there for a wee bit, but I think they will be fine. I've gone with Newcastle in 15th. I think the fall off's going to be incredible for Newcastle. I think if the owners don't start spending a bit more money, if they don't start investing a bit more in the squad, I think they could be in serious danger. They've lost a lot of powerhouse hitters this summer. And I don't know. I don't fancy them today, and it's why I've put the rivals above them. I'm going 14th Newcastle, Sunderland. Sorry. I do think they will be a mid-table team this season. A bit of a drop off for last season, but I think that's only natural when you come up. They had such a good season, breaking into the top seven. But I think they're just going to tail off a wee bit. Then 13th gone Fulham. I think again that's a mid-table finish for Fulham. I think they finished 11th last year, so I think they'll be in around that area again. 12th, I've gone Everton. No too much to say on Everton here. I think they are just going to be a mid-table team, and I think you can say that with sort of that sort of bunch in there. That three there, Fulham, Everton, who have gotten 11th Crystal Palace. I think again they had a good season last season. Obviously winning a trophy under Glasner. I do suspect they probably will be around that area again. I don't suspect they'll win a trophy, to be honest, but I think Crystal Palace will be in there. In 10th, I've gone Brentford. I think again they finished 9th last year, so I suspect they'll be in around that area again. And then in 9th, I've actually gone for Tottenham Hotspur, who on a bit of a rebuild, but I fancy Tottenham will have a decent season this season. I don't think they're going to be teetering around the relegation area come the end of the season, so aye, that is my 17th to 9th. But now it starts getting interesting, because now we start getting into the European spots, and obviously we push higher up the table, we get to the champion slot. Who am I going to pick to win the league? It's going to be interesting. And obviously who's going to finish in the top four. But without further ado, let's get into the Europa and Conference League spots. Okay, let's dive into it then. In my 8th position, I'm going to go with Bournemouth under Marco Rosa. I think he is going to do well. He's been appointed, I believe, a 3-year contract. I think it's always a difficult task to try and replace a manager that done as well as Areola, but look, I like the squad. I like players like Ryan Christie, who of course I know well. I like Marcus Tavernier, although I do believe he's been rumoured away from the club. Obviously, they have Ben Gandoik, they've got Junior Krupe. There's some good players in that squad, so I think Marco Rose is taking a good gig, sorry, and I do believe he will be a top 8 team. In my number 7th, I'm going to go with Brighton. I'm predicting Brighton to have a pretty high season if I can actually get them in there. They finished at 8th last season, so I've gone actually one step above for them. I do believe they've lost quite a lot of players, but I do like Brighton, and I do. I think the thing with Brighton is you can always count on them to have one of these seasons where they're probably just going to be up there. So I have gone Brighton in there. Then in my 6th position, I've gone with Aston Villa, who obviously lost the Super Cup there to PSG. I think they played very well. They've got a couple of good young players coming through. Madjaw especially in the front position, who looked deadly at times, by the way. So I think Aston Villa are going to have a good season. Obviously, they finished 4th last year. I don't think they're going to make it up there again. But I'm going to go with them in 6th. But there's only a few positions left to go, so let's get through them. Right then, into the final 5 teams, it is the UCL spots. Then, of course, we can reveal the champion. So, in 5th position, I'm going to place Chelsea. I think Chelsea are going to be a strong team this season. I think it's been too long since we've seen them have a really good standout season where they've been pushing up the league. I think they've been balancing mid-table the last few years. I like Jabi Alonso. I like a few of the signings he's made. He's brought in some experience into that Chelsea team, which they've probably been missing for a good while. So I think that's going to be really positive for Chelsea. So I am going to put them in 5th, just making into that UEFA Champions League spot. And at number 4, I'm going to have Manchester United. Man United under Michael Carrick, who finished 3rd last year. I don't think a top 4 spot is bad for Man United. I think they are a few pieces of business away from being really big contenders. But look, the one thing I will say about Man United is they're no rebuilding in the sense of they've not just switched manager. Michael Carrick's been in the dugout for a while. He's building on what he had last season. Whereas you look at the teams like Manchester City, Liverpool, teams around that area, Chelsea, even Brighton to an extent, they are, that rebuilding clubs. They are looking to try and build some sort of squad together. So I'm going to put Man United in 4th with a rebound that they might be able to finish higher. And that takes me into my number 3, which is going to be Liverpool. Liverpool are in for a pretty interesting season. There's a lot of players that they've got in there. Of course, the new manager, Areola. Going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Of course, they've signed Ronald Araujo on loan. He looks like he could be a good signing for them. So I think they're interesting. Liverpool, I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch. See how some of the players that maybe didn't hit a ground running last season, like Alexander Isak, like what's his name, Florian Wirtz, is going to sort of adapt and try and grow Liverpool a bit stronger than they were last season, because I think Liverpool fans are going to be expecting a title. So but it's down to the final two now. Who am I going to predict to win the Premier League? Well, I'm going to place Arsenal in number 1. Of course, they're my champions, which means Man City going in number 2. Man City will start off with them first, as I mentioned earlier. They are facing a bit of a rebuild in terms of they've got a new manager, but the team's not getting any weaker. They're so good, and they look really, really good. You look at players, obviously, I think the big hit on the reason why I've not put them on to win the league is they've lost Rodri. Rodri looks almost guaranteed to join Barcelona. That's such a big miss. For me, Rodri is the staple holder of that Man City team. I think you've seen the stats when they didn't have Rodri in their team, and they're frighteningly bad. So I think that's such a big hole to sort of plug. I think as well you factor in the fact that Pep's no longer there. I don't think Man City can go that step further and win the league, but the team I do think are going to win the Premier League again is Arsenal. Now, Arsenal obviously made one really big signing. Bruno Guimaraes joins the club. I think that's a sensational bit of business, to be honest with you. I think he's such a good midfielder. I think it's exactly the position they needed to strengthen. Look, Arsenal have a really good team. I think they've got a really good coach in Mikel Arteta. I think they are, again, I don't think they're the finished article. I certainly think they could be a couple of signings better off, but it's just enough for me to look at them and go, aye, they're going to be the Premier League champions. So that is my winners of the Premier League. Arsenal, that is my league table, as you can see here. Let me know down below, do you have any shocks? Do you disagree with any of my picks? Please let me know. I will be interested to hear. There will be more uploads coming. Sorry for such a late upload, by the way. Just with everything that's happened today, I've just barely had any time. But aye, I thought I'd get this out the now, because I know the Premier League does start in a week. But you have been watching Robbie Collins. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, please like, share, comment, subscribe. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.